Hi everyone, wanted to take a few minutes to show you a very quick tutorial on how we might create a wire figure with some special attention toward K-12 classrooms. The tools we're going to use are very easy. Today I'm going to use some 18 gauge steel wire and I have a roll of that here. You'll note, and this is a classroom practice, that on the tips of the wire I've rolled that over into a little loop so that when you distribute wire to students and they're unrolling this and there's a tip of wire moving around as the students are working, that's going to be a lot safer than a sharper tip of a wire that is cut and could potentially scratch or poke somebody. And then some needle nose pliers is very useful, especially if you're using the steel wire. If you work with elementary students, you might use aluminum wire, which is much easier to work with. But I'll show you how and why I use pliers here in a moment. So the approach that I'm going to share is a symmetrical approach to making a wire figure. So I'm going to unwind this wire and do an approximate kind of folding in half just to find the center point like this, so that my ends are lined up. And this center point I'm going to wrap, make a twist in it to start a head, and the twists can be thought of as a line that's going to go down through the neck. Now as we build this, we are essentially trying to start to just create a structure that's going to be very useful for us and give us the bones to build the rest of our sculpture on as we use this wire. The important part here is that we're not going to be cutting this wire, but bending this long piece of wire that might be about 8 feet long to get the whole structure of our figure. So I am starting with the head, twisting in the neck, going down the arms, and shaping just kind of a parallel lines for the arms that can be shaped here in a few moments. And then I've come back to torso, and then that torso I'm going to come down and twist these together again at a point that might be somewhere close toward the middle of the body, the waist, or the spine. And then one of the things I really want to make sure that I do, so that I don't have that sad little stick figure effect where the legs come out from a single point in the center, is I want to have some wires come out and represent the width of the hips and then bend those down so that the legs are coming down from points on the wider part of the hips. So this is going to give me a better structure to build something that is going to represent an appropriate anatomy. I'm going to do a quick loop for a foot. The feet are going to be really important, so I'm going to go ahead and do a hard twist there with my fingers to make sure I have a nice solid loop. And then I have a little bit of wire here left, but not a whole lot before I hit the end. So I'm going to use that now to start creating a contour that might represent perhaps like the calf muscle, and anchor that in place somewhere here about where the knee is going to be. Since that's wrapped around a couple times already, I'm actually going to go ahead and cut that off. Certainly one of the functions of the needle nose pliers is removing extra wire, and then the other is that you can use these pliers to really take the tip of that wire, wrap around it, and then really crimp it down tight so that the tip of the wire is on there, and where you've linked that wire on there is going to stay good and solid. So if I do that with both of my wires so that I have a foot created on either side, then I have a fairly solid structure to begin working with and adding other wires onto. And I will show you a little bit more of that when we move forward. I'm going to anchor this one down at the knee, and you'll see at this point that this wire is a little bit longer than the other one was, so I might even take that one up the leg, and that'll begin to act as a contour of perhaps the thigh muscle of the leg there, and I'll anchor that down as well, and I'm going to crimp that tightly with the needle nose pliers as well. So this gives us a really good basic structure, starting with the symmetry by starting in the middle. The structure is still rather wobbly. The arms aren't twisted together, but that actually could be quickly fixed. I could decide to twist the wires that I have at the elbow, which could give me a good kind of structure point. Or likewise, I could decide to twist those wires closer to the shoulder, and that could give me a similar effect in terms of wires to work with. So that's a really good starting point that gets me a figure that is posable, something that I can begin to position in space and figure out how I want to position a figure, and be thinking about how to represent that figure in action. I'll show you next adding a couple of wires to this to begin adding additional contours.